you've seen a generation come and go. You see another generation of preachers coming up behind you. Tell us and explain to us your perspective on, with that in mind, how Christ builds his church over the ages, and what the enduring power of Christ to fulfill his promise in Matthew 16, I will build my church. Talk to us about that and the work of Christ over generations to do his work.
Christ will build his church. He will accomplish it. He has chosen in eternity past, and all that the Father gives to me will come to me, and I'll lose none of them, but raise them at the last day. The Lord will build his church. That strong confidence in the sovereign purpose of God. However, on the other hand, I think it's not a guarantee that the church is going to be strong. And I have to hold the other reality that a weak, ignorant, entertainment-centered church is not going to be the instrument that the Lord can use at a maximum level, and is going to be very likely to produce half Christians who are not genuinely converted. So I fear for the character of the church in the broad sense, and yet I have confidence in God's purposes. And I hold that tension in all theology. I am deeply burdened at the what goes on in pulpits and what goes on in the name of Christ in churches.
So-called.
Yeah, I'm saddened about that. I was talking to you a little earlier about the seeming indifference to the doctrine of sanctification. There's a lot of words being thrown around today in churches: relevant, millennial, missional. I don't hear holiness, purity, virtue, godliness. Those aren't the words that are in the conversation. My passion, and you know this, is to raise up men who will do ministry biblically for the honor of the Lord, for the clarity of doctrine, for the sake of the advance of the kingdom, and for their own joy. So I know the end will be as God wills it, but that would be true in my life. That gives me no excuse to sin. And I don't think the church has any excuse for being anything less than God has designed it to be, and a shepherd for being anything less than God has designed him to be. And I think, and we were talking about students that come to the Master's University, Christian students. Years ago, they had biblical knowledge. They had sort of a general biblical knowledge. They grew up in a church. Today, they come from churches and have virtually no biblical knowledge. I don't know what's going on in their churches, but they don't know the Bible. We grew up in church, Sunday school, listening to Bible stories. Most of these contemporary churches have no Sunday school. They have nothing like that. They're just events. So this is a scary time, and here's the downside of one of the downsides. Is you've got all these places and all these leaders claiming to be Christians, and about every other day one of them crashes and burns in some kind of moral catastrophe which brings reproach on the name of Jesus Christ, and these are people who had no business ever being in those positions. So I'm not a doomsdayer in that sense, Don. I know the Lord triumphs in the end, but that gives us no excuse to be less than what he would want us to be for his honor.